To the northwest, where we do have blustery showers continuing during the evening across the north and west of Scotland. Some heavy downpours, the odd rumble of thunder as well around coastal parts, but eastern and southern Scotland sheltered from those showers. Clear spells, plenty of clear spells, likewise for Northern Ireland. Northern England, Western England, Wales, a stark contrast to how the last few days have been. It's looking like a very pretty day with blue skies and staying mostly dry. One or two showers couldn't be ruled out into coastal parts, but otherwise, with those clear skies in place and with light winds, it's going to be a chilly start to the night in the west, but quite quickly we've got the wind picking up once again, cloud rolling in, so temperatures rising in the west whilst they continue to fall through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. Extensive fog forming in the southeast, and by the start of Wednesday could be some tricky conditions on the roads with that fog slow to clear. A touch of frost in places as well. Where the fog does clear, some sunshine for a time in the southeastern quarter of the country, but elsewhere across the UK it's wet, it's windy. Once again it's Western Hills seeing the heaviest rain, and the focus by the end of the day will be across South Wales and the southwest of England. A little bit milder as that rain comes in, but not feeling very pleasant at all.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation, because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. There are currently significant delays in Suffolk on the A14 westbound at junction 37 in Newmarket due to a road traffic collision involving multiple vehicles. 2 of the 3 lanes are closed, causing approximately 1-hour delays for motorists. In Middlesbrough, the A19 northbound entry slip from the A174 is facing disruptions due to a collision, with 1 lane closed. This is likely to be resolved by 10:21 this morning. And on the trains, disruptions are affecting both Hull trains and Eleanor services running between Selby and Hull. Stay up to date at gbnews.com. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
The National Trust has come under fire after declining a Catholic filmmaker's request to shoot a documentary at St Cuthbert's Cave in Northumberland. St Cuthbert's Cave was a crucial location for the film, as it's traditionally believed to be where the saint's body rested in 875 before he was moved to Durham, where it remains today. The Trust justified its decision by citing the project's religious affiliation, sparking accusations that the heritage charity has breached equality laws and is engaging in illegal religious discrimination. Well, I'm joined now by the filmmaker at the centre of the story, Christian Holden. Christian, thank you for coming in. So, first of all, tell me about St Cuthbert. Why do we mind about St Cuthbert?
Well, St Cuthbert, this historical figure, this great figure of the northeast of England and the Scottish borders area, was renowned for his physical prowess, for his great night vigils. I approached the National Trust to ask permission to film there, and the initial response I had from them by email was that they didn't host any filming of a religious or political nature. I made a phone call to that particular person and explained more about what we hope to do, and that aside from its religious storyline, there's also historical value to it, cultural.
And so you were making the case that St Cuthbert was a cultural icon as well as a religious icon in the northeast of England, a very important political as well as religious figure in the consolidation of Christianity in the northeast.
It's such a critical part of our culture and our heritage, particularly in that area as well. So I was bewildered to be refused to visit and film this site of such importance on the basis of essentially being a Christian filmmaker.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion. My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Tuesday the 16th of December, live across the United Kingdom, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, do you remember this from our presenter Bev Turner's interview with Donald Trump last month?
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
Well, things have developed overnight.
In a little while you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. They put words in my mouth.
The President has filed a $10 billion defamation lawsuit, that's around £7 billion, against the BBC after doctoring one of his speeches. And guess, of course, who'll have to pay for it if he wins?
Elsewhere, one of the attackers in the Bondi Beach shooting's car is found loaded with explosives and homemade ISIS flags.
Australian authorities have also confirmed that the two men had travelled off to the Philippines. ISIS has a stronghold in the southern Philippines. The concern is they may have been training there.
Is the Prime Minister aware that some farmers who have terminal diagnosis now are actively planning to expedite their own deaths so they hit before April? Is he aware of that?
I've had discussions with a number of individuals who've drawn all manner of things to my attention.
Prime Minister, their challenge on claims that his controversial inheritance tax changes are pushing farmers literally to the brink. His reply has predictably sparked fury.
And it may be more difficult than normal to see your doctor this Christmas as thousands go on strike tomorrow after weeks of failed negotiations with the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
I've blamed you and lectured you, and you have borne it as no other woman in England would have borne it.
Well, that was GB News presenter Michael Portillo reading an extract from his favourite Jane Austen novel, Emma, as we celebrate the author's 250th anniversary. Now, I think I'm being set up here, but one of my favourite things to come out from Jane Austen, it was a hit in the 1990s, was this scene from Pride and Prejudice with Mr. Darcy, Colin Firth there, of course. Although the picture hasn't, maybe it's been...
Mr. Darcy?
He doesn't look like that now, Colin Firth, I have to tell you. He looks nothing like that now. Oh dear, what age does to some people.
Well, indeed, but it did popularise, it did make Jane Austen accessible to a mass market, didn't it, in the 1990s?
It certainly
very
did.
Iconic.
And of course, he went on to become an Oscar-winning actor, of course, because he got the Oscar for The King's Speech. But say, he's a little broader of girth now.
That's very tactful, Andrew. It was a great series. We will be talking lots about Jane Austen later on, 250th anniversary. So if you want to tell us your favourite novel or favourite scene or favourite actor, do get in touch by visiting.
You visit gbnews.com/you'll say, but first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom, 9:30. Australian police say they're investigating claims that the two Bondi Beach gunmen travelled to the Philippines weeks before the attack to get military-style training. The Australian Prime Minister says the massacre, which killed 15 people, appears to have been motivated by IS ideology. Donald Trump has now filed a defamation lawsuit against the BBC. He's seeking £7.5 billion in damages over a Panorama programme that he says selectively edited his January 6th speech. MPs are urging Sir Keir Starmer to stand up for the broadcaster. BBC says it's standing firm and hasn't responded so far to the filing. UK unemployment has risen to 5.1%, its highest level since early 2021. The ONS says young people are being hit hardest, with unemployment among 18 to 24-year-olds jumping by 85,000. Ministers admit the figures underline the scale of the challenge. And a 5-day doctors' strike in England will go ahead from Wednesday after talks collapse. The Prime Minister calls it irresponsible as flu cases surge, but the BMA says pay is still far below 2008 levels in real terms. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, he was pretty clear, wasn't he, in his interview with Bev Turner in America, the president, that he was going to go for the BBC, and how. 33 pages. It's pretty verbose, actually, the document, but he's really gone for them big time. And he wants £10 billion, or £7 billion in damages.
And of course, this is after the national broadcaster edited clips of a speech that made it appear as though Donald Trump had directed his supporters to storm the US Capitol. Take a listen to what he said overnight.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. They put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say.
Well, I've dug out what he's actually said in the Miriam. False, defamatory, deceptive, disparaging, inflammatory and malicious depiction of President Trump. And it runs over 33 pages. But it is clear, I mean, it was a bad edit. It was a deliberate attempt to deceive and mislead. And they lifted one sentence from a speech 54 pages on and knitted the two together. And we only found out because it was leaked to a national newspaper.
In that famous memo. And of course, crucially, this programme was broadcast just a week before the presidential election. So the key accusation is that it was trying to manipulate the result. So, I mean, you can totally understand why he's seeking to sue them. But lawyers are saying there's no chance because free speech laws in the States are so strong. Of course, broadcasters edit material all the time, but he has won a few previous cases in the US for far less money, kind of $12–13 million.
ABC and CBS. But he's had an apology.
Yes,
and a
but
retraction.
Not compensation.
Not compensation. But
I don't think he needs the money, Andy.
He doesn't need the money. But let's talk to the US political commentator Nora Lee Knotson, who joins us now. Nora Lee, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Look, I mean, I think he was right to pursue the BBC for an apology and correction because it was a deliberate attempt to portray the president in a very negative... Well, he was presidential candidate then, in a very negative and negative light. But I'm not sure I want the British taxpayer, because that's who'd have to pay the bill, to be stung for £7 billion.
No, and I understand that about the British taxpayer, but this is about the principle of the BBC and it upholding its standard to deliver unbiased news. And Trump, I believe, is in the right because it was extremely reckless, deliberately misleading, and it defamed Trump's reputation. I had people here that were Americans, actually from Florida, who saw that and did not vote for Trump because of that.
So if he could get a lot of evidence that happened a lot, Nora Lee, then he would probably have a case for defamation. But it would have to be a lot of people, surely. Millions.
Yes. The standard is, the bar is really high to prove this, but I think it's more of the principle that the Prescott report that was leaked, the memo, that there's systemic bias, and it went to such a level that they tried to interfere in a U.S. election. Instead of saying that Trump what he actually said was to go down to the Capitol and use their voices patriotically and peacefully. They said they would go down to the Capitol and fight like hell. That is gross negligence. That is reckless. And to this day, people still fight about what really happened there in the United States of America. And it's not only about the money, because we know it will probably settle for 15 million, 16 million, like ABC did, like CBS did. But this is going to magnify the systemic bias at the BBC if they fight this, because it's not only about winning it, it's going to magnify all the bias within the BBC. So I don't think it behooves them to fight it. If I were the head of the BBC, I would settle and issue another apology.
Now, Norley, I think many people will understand why Trump is aggrieved at this edit. It was deeply unfair. It was clearly deceptive. But it's interesting to look at the language that the Trump regime is using about the BBC. Caroline Leavitt said yesterday, she is, of course, the White House press secretary, that this is proof that the BBC is 100% fake news that should no longer be worth the time on the television screens of the great people of the United Kingdom. Do you think this is a little bit paternalistic, the White House telling the British people what they should or shouldn't be watching?
I agree. That is an exaggeration. I think in relation to this instance, yes, it was fake news. The BBC, as you know, is a bit of a national treasure here. It's broadcast to nearly 500 million people globally. When I've lived overseas, I always turned on the BBC for my market news. It is something that needs to be protected and saved. And I think Trump feels he's doing the BBC a favor by filing this lawsuit, because he wants to have them uphold their standards of reporting unbiased news.
I'm curious how it's playing in America, Norley, because, of course, this documentary episode wasn't broadcast in America before the election. Is it a big issue? Is the BBC a household name in America? It's, after all, it is the British national broadcaster, but it's not the American national broadcaster.
BBC is a household name, and as you know, we live in a tech century where VPNs, we're all on X, we're all on Facebook, people are sharing clips and information. Something that is broadcast here spreads like wildfire globally. So that's not an excuse for the BBC to say it was only broadcast here.
Can we move on, Norley, to a different Trump story? And this is Trump's reaction to the death of Rob Reiner and his wife. The accused is their son. But he made an extraordinary post on social media blaming the killing on Trump derangement syndrome. It sparked outrage on both left and right. How has it gone down in America?
Oh, that's a good question. And I'll be honest, I didn't read that post, but I do find it a bit odd to say it's Trump derangement syndrome. I think from what I've read about it, it's more about what happens after you've been a drug addict and the problems you have, with your mental health and the extremes that it can lead to. And I think it's a tragic occurrence. And, my heart goes out to the entire family and everybody that's impacted by this. But it just highlights the problems we have with mental health and drug addiction in the U.S. And, it's a problem that it's hard to solve.
All right. No. Norley, just going back to the BBC.
Right.
Do you think he's a tenacious man? Is he likely to settle, or is he going to push and push and push to go the whole way? I mean, if I'm just thinking if Starmer, our Prime Minister, had a word in his ear, because Starmer will not want to see because if he was to get billions, that will destroy the BBC. That isn't in the interest of our current Prime Minister to see the BBC destroyed on his watch by a vengeful American president.
Of course, it's not in the interest of the UK, which is one of the greatest allies of the US. And I think if I were Starmer, what I would be advising to the head of the BBC is to settle this quickly and get it out of the press. Because what's going to happen is people are going to continue to talk about all the systemic bias. It's not only about this. We know there's lots of problems in the BBC, and it's going to be bad publicity for the BBC. So Trump's going to continue with his lawsuit. We know whatever he says he's going to do, he's going to do. And so it's not a surprise that he filed the lawsuit because he said he would. They would be wise to settle, and Starmer would be wise to advise the BBC to settle and move on.
Now, normally in the States, I understand that it's much more kind of a litigious culture, I suppose, than here in the UK. We don't have suits like this. Are these kind of lawsuits seen as run-of-the-mill, everyday occurrences, or has there been an increase in recent years in terms of the polarisation of the media?
I think the litigious nature of the US, unfortunately, has been around since, the entirety of my lifetime. And I actually didn't become a lawyer because I don't like blaming people for my problems. But sadly, people sue to make a point. They sue to get a headline, and then they quietly negotiate behind the scenes a settlement. So I do expect there will be a settlement, but I do believe there's an important problem at the BBC. And if I were the head of the BBC, I would put my energy into stamping out the systemic bias that allowed such a gross, negligent panorama clip to come out.
Yeah, all right, Nora Lee, that's Nora Lee Notson, commentator joining us. Of course, the BBC has no head at the moment because Tim Davie, the Director General, resigned in the aftermath of the controversy over the Panorama documentary. The chairman of the board is still there, a completely ineffective man called Samir Shah, and so the board is there, but also the head of news, she went too.
Yeah, and it'd be a brave person to take on the challenge because I think the problems have been exposed, but the answers aren't clear. If they are systemic, if they are institutional, these biases, then there's an awful lot of things that need to change before it can get back on track. But, I mean, for all its faults, I do think we're better off with the BBC
I agree with
than
that.
without it.
It's just too big.
It's too big. It's doing too many things.
It is.
Should go back to making Pride and Prejudice.
It's employing 22,000 people. Gosh. I was writing stories 20 years ago that the BBC was too big and the Director General was going to cut it back. They never do. They just grow it and grow it and grow it. Why do we need BBC 6? Why do we need BBC 3 and BBC 4? Why do we need all these channels? We just don't. What do you think? That's what we want to know.
Well, still ahead, find out why thousands of drivers are going to have their speeding tickets scrapped.
Another flipping scandal. But up next, new evidence has come to light about one of the alleged Bondi Beach gunmen. You won't want to miss it.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading overseas for a holiday, well, you'll find plenty of fine weather in Greece and Cyprus. Italy too, but fairly showery with a keen northerly breeze for the Canary Islands and some heavy rain across eastern Spain. That's going to stick around for a couple of days. Meanwhile, ahead of another area of low pressure, Italy and Greece are largely fine, but there is another low on the way, arriving into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
And I'm going to start with you. Talk to me about autism and why you got involved with this, because some people don't know the story as to why you set up Anna Kennedy Online.
Well, I have two sons. They're now 32 and 35, and I'm proud to say that my eldest son, Patrick, is in Stockholm at the moment on his own, so that's like a big step for him to go on holiday, and he's loving it. So they both were diagnosed fairly young, and the support at the time was just non-existent. So we had to set up our own school, and then we set up a vocational college for my youngest son, Angelo.
Now, how do you know that they're autistic? Is there a blood test? Is it something where you have a list of symptoms? Or, because some people say, oh, I've got ADHD and this and that, and I think sometimes people conflate it with autism. Are there parallels with the two, or are they totally separate? Because it's confusing.
They're very different from each other, both Patrick and Angelo. So Angelo was diagnosed fairly early at 2.5, 3. He passed all the milestones and then he just lost everything. His speech, eye contact, didn't want to be touched, didn't even want me to hug him at the time, running from one end of the room to the other, squealing, and it was just like, what is going on? And as a mum, you're thinking, what have I done wrong? Have I done something wrong?
Oh, no.
Patrick was diagnosed fairly early again, but he was premature, and I thought the difficulties that he was having because he was 11 weeks premature, I thought, is it because he had a bit of a difficult start, in and out of hospital, and then he was diagnosed at 4, and then we found out when he was 7, when he was struggling at school. He was finding school difficult, being bullied. So it's an autism spectrum condition, and if you feel that there might be, something that I'm not quite sure, I can't get a handle on it, please go and see your GP and just ask for your child to be assessed. But the difficulty at the minute is the waiting list is so long to get a diagnosis.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. It's 10 to 10.
So officials in Australia have given an update on the investigation into the weekend's horrific mass shooting in Bondi Beach, which left 15 people dead. Here's a listen.
I can confirm that they did travel to the Philippines. The reasons why they went to the Philippines and the purpose of that and where they went when they were there is under investigation at the moment. I also confirm that the vehicle, which is registered to the younger male, contained IEDs, but I also confirm that it contained 2 homemade ISIS flags.
And in related news in the US, the FBI have revealed that they've stopped a planned terrorist bombing in Los Angeles on New Year's Eve. The 4 suspects are from a pro-Palestine extremist group and they remain in custody.
It's reported, horrifically, they were planning to target 5 different locations. Our Home Security Editor, Mark White, as ever, knows all. Mark, morning.
Yeah, this is a group of far-left, pro-Palestinian offshoot, anti-government. They're called the Turtle Island Liberation Front. It's almost a comical name, but they were anything but comical, according to US authorities. They had deadly intent. They were off in the desert. That's why we were showing the images there of that press conference that they held. The FBI had a spotter plane up filming them as they'd gone into the desert near LA to test their bombs. They had the precursor chemicals. They were making and testing bombs. So this wasn't, just chat, idle chat. They were in the final stages of preparing for a series of attacks that were going to target 2 companies described as logistic companies on New Year's Eve at multiple locations, as you said, Andrew, 5 different locations. But in addition to that, they also had further intention of going after ICE agencies, immigration and customs enforcement officers in the US who are so proactive at the moment, of course, under orders from President Trump to go after the illegal immigrants in the US and to remove them from the country. So these far-left groups have the likes of ICE agents in their sights. So there's no doubt, as I say, the authorities believe that this was a deadly plot. And just one of a number of plots and threats that are now being exposed in the run-up to Christmas and the New Year. We heard, of course, in Paris about them scaling back their plans for fireworks displays on New Year's Eve because of real concerns about the terror threat in that country. There have been 6 failed terror plots in recent months in France. A plot to attack a Christmas market in southern Bavaria in Germany was also uncovered at the beginning of this week, and 5 people arrested. And now we've got what's unfolding in Australia. The terror threat picture at the moment is it's diverse. It's growing in terms of the threat from Islamist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, who we had thought we had resigned to history. They're there, they're resurgent, and they're planning and inspiring attacks in the West.
Means you've got to be extra careful, don't we?
A
We've got to be
very
very
worrying
alert.
picture.
Well, it's always at this time of the year, yes, that the police will get out that messaging for people just not to be alarmed, they say, but certainly to be vigilant.
All right,
Well,
Mark,
thank you, Mark, for that update. Well, don't go anywhere because the resident doctors go on strike tomorrow. We're asking if this worries you in the run-up to Christmas.
Any time they go on strike, you should be worried, but in the run-up to Christmas, terrible timing. This is Britain's Newsroom. Here's the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Rain will clear the southeast during the rest of today. Sunny spells developing elsewhere, albeit with a scattering of showers in the northwest of the UK, especially northern and western Scotland, 1 or 2 pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. But it's this area of rain that has brought such wet weather to the northwest and then the west of the UK during the weekend and the start of this week. Still some spots of rain to come across parts of Kent through the afternoon. A lot of cloud here as well, but it is easing away. 10 Celsius in the southeast, 6 or 7 to the northwest, where we do have blustery showers continuing during the evening across the north and west of Scotland. Some heavy downpours, the odd rumble of thunder as well around coastal parts, but eastern and southern Scotland sheltered from those showers. Clear spells, plenty of clear spells, likewise for Northern Ireland. Northern England, Western England, Wales, a stark contrast to how the last few days have been. It's looking like a very pretty day with blue skies and staying mostly dry. 1 or 2 showers couldn't be ruled out into coastal parts, but otherwise, with those clear skies in place and with light winds, it's going to be a chilly start to the night in the west, but quite quickly we've got the wind picking up once again, cloud rolling in. So temperatures rising in the west, whilst they continue to fall through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. Extensive fog forming in the southeast, and by the start of Wednesday could be some tricky conditions on the roads with that fog slow to clear. A touch of frost in places as well. Where the fog does clear, some sunshine for a time in the southeastern quarter of the country, but elsewhere across the UK it's wet, it's windy. Once again it's Western Hills seeing the heaviest rain, and the focus by the end of the day will be across South Wales and the southwest of England. A little bit milder as that rain comes in, but not feeling very pleasant at all.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M73 southbound, the junction 1 link road to the M74 northbound junction 4 is restricted due to a broken down vehicle. There is congestion on the A48M westbound between junction 29 at Castleton and junction 29A at St Mellons. In Suffolk, a road traffic collision on the A14 westbound at junction 37, Newmarket West, has closed 2 of 3 lanes, causing significant delays. And on the trains, expect disruptions on Hull trains and Elna between Selby and Hull. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 16th of December. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, you remember this from Bev Turner's interview with Donald Trump only last month?
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
Well, things have certainly developed overnight.
A little while you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth. Literally, they put words in my mouth.
Well, the President, Donald Trump, has filed a $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the BBC after they doctored one of his speeches. And guess who'll be paying for it?
Breaking news, sticking with the US, Donald Trump has suspended the £31 billion tech trade deal with Britain, which was agreed after that September state visit, and he's blaming our online safety laws and digital services tax.
Elsewhere, one of the attackers in the Bondi beach shooting, his car has been found loaded with explosives and homemade ISIS flags.
Is the Prime Minister aware that some farmers who have terminal diagnosis now are actively planning to expedite their own deaths so they hit before April? Is he aware of that?
I've had discussions with a number of individuals who've drawn all manner of things to my attention.
The Prime Minister there challenged on claims his inheritance tax changes are pushing farmers literally to the brink. That waffly reply has sparked fury.
And it may be more difficult to see your doctor this Christmas as thousands of doctors go on strike tomorrow after weeks of failed negotiations with the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
I've blamed you and lectured you, and you have borne it as no other woman in England would have borne it.
Well, that was our very own GB News presenter Michael Portillo reading an extract from his favourite Jane Austen novel, Emma. That's as we celebrate the author's 250th anniversary.
Honestly, that tech deal was trumpeted from the rooftops of Downing Street and the Treasury and Department of Business because it was seen as a direct result of giving the unprecedented second state visit to Donald Trump, and he's pulled it or suspended it.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in our long-term interest. I think it's very concerning how much Britain, big tech, earns and also how little tax they pay.
Yeah, quite.
But in the short term, it will hit our GDP, that's for sure.
It certainly
Starmer will not be pleased.
And people will say again, why did he give him a second state visit? What did he get? What did we get out of it? What did we get out of it? We gave Donald Trump's ego a huge boost and nothing for the British economy.
He's taken those carriage rides and giving us nothing.
Absolutely. Now, as ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at just after 10 o'clock. The top story this hour. Hate speech on Britain's streets has gone on for far too long. That's the warning from the chief rabbi today after the Bondi Beach terror attack. Saif Rahim says chants like globalise the intifada risk violence. Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed since that extra security will be placed at Jewish events across the UK this week. Well, that comes as Australian police have said they are now investigating claims that the two Bondi Beach gunmen travelled to the Philippines just weeks before the attack to get military-style training. The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the massacre, which killed 15 people, appears to have been motivated by IS ideology. In the US, Donald Trump says he is going ahead to sue the BBC, accusing it of defamation. The US president claims a Panorama programme doctored his January the 6th speech. He says the broadcaster put words in his mouth, falsely linking him to the Capitol riot. The BBC has since apologised and pulled the report, but refused to pay compensation. Mr. Trump now has completed that legal action in the US, where defamation cases face a high bar. Former BBC executives have already resigned over the controversy. Here's what Trump had to say yesterday.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth. Literally, they put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say.
News here at home, and UK unemployment has risen to 5.1%. That is its highest level since early 2021. The ONS says young people are being hit hardest, with unemployment among 18 to 24-year-olds jumping by 85,000. Ministers admit the figures underline the scale of the challenge. Well, the Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride spoke to us here on GB News Breakfast this morning. He claims the unemployment figures are a direct consequence of the Chancellor's decisions.
If you tax jobs, national insurance going up, don't be surprised if you kill growth and increase unemployment. They've also borrowed and spent large amounts of money, stoked inflation. That means interest rates staying higher for longer, which also weighs down on the economy. And I'm afraid it all shows a party that just does not understand business.
And a 5-day doctors' strike in England is set to go ahead tomorrow after talks collapsed. The BMA says 83% of members voted to continue industrial action. The Prime Minister, though, has called the decision irresponsible, with flu cases surging and hospitals already under pressure. Resident doctors, though, say their pay is still far lower than it was in real terms 15 years ago. Emergency and non-urgent care will be affected from Wednesday morning, with senior doctors stepping in to provide cover. And Health Minister Stephen Kinnock spoke to us earlier today. He says the BMA's decision means that they need to come into the real world.
Deeply disappointed by the decision that they've taken. We've given them a 28.9% pay rise. They're coming back and asking for 26% more. That's just not living in the real world. We've also said we'll do emergency legislation to solve this issue around foreign-trained doctors being prioritised over British-trained doctors, one of Boris Johnson's brilliant ideas, which has to be sorted out. Emergency legislation we've offered on that. They rejected that.
That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Miriam.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. Breaking news just coming into us now that the alleged Bondi attacker has woken up...
He's not the alleged. He's the Bondi attacker.
Indeed. Naveed Akram, he is woken up from a coma in hospital. Of course, his father, the other attacker, was killed by police.
Some people would probably wish he never recovered and died, but actually I want him to be made accountable for what he did and try to explain the justification for this cowardly massacre. Don't you agree?
Well, absolutely. He should be tried. And also, I imagine the police will want to know an awful lot about what, if anybody else was behind this attack, what links he's got with terrorist organisations. So hopefully he'll be able to provide some useful information.
We'll also know how much the Australian authorities who approached him, how seriously they took the threat from him. Because we now know he'd been to a part of the Philippines which is a hotbed for IS terrorists, and the fact his father had 6 guns in the house, and they didn't think there was a risk.
And we understand that he was briefly known to the authorities back in 2019 with some suspicious Islamist activity, but obviously they didn't think he was a real and present danger and were no longer watching him. So I'm sure all of that will come up, and we will be keeping you up to date with that story as we hear more details.
While we've got the hero of the hour, who's the most popular man in the world at the moment, this man is the most infamous in the world, isn't he, frankly?
The hero? The
terrorist.
Ahmed al-Ahmed, yes, who tried to disarm, in fact, one of the gunmen.
He'll have to be in solitary confinement for the rest of his life.
I would imagine so. Well, let's take a listen to what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say. Lots of chat about Trump and the BBC. Linda says the licence fee owners shouldn't have to pay. The BBC has their own resources. Sue says, who can blame Trump? The BBC blatantly took his comments out of context. And then, of course, on the Jane Austen story, Martin says, Colin Firth is a fantastic actor. Yes, you're right, he is getting older, but it doesn't make him any less handsome.
I don't think he's a very good actor. I think he plays the same part in everything. He sounds the same in everything.
Well, he's only got one voice, Andrew.
Well, no, but the actors haven't. They're meant to have lots of different voices.
True.
That's the
I thought he was good in the King's Speech. I thought
he was great in
that.
Yeah, but he was. Because he was brilliant.
But yes, I know what you mean.
Now,
he plays
don't
a
forget,
posh British man.
He plays posh. He's a bit like, although Hugh Grant did that for years, but he's found a new.
He's good as baddies, I think.
And he's also a very good comedy actor.
Yes, he is.
Brilliant in Paddington. Now, don't forget, friends of GB News can vote in today's poll for free, and we're asking, very good question, is Donald Trump right to sue the BBC? How do you get involved?
You can scan the QR code, which should be on your screen right now, and we will bring you the results shortly. And if you want to become a friend of GB News, it's completely free. Here's how you do it.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
So the 5-day doctor strike in England will go ahead after all, after talks with the Health Secretary collapsed. Wes Streeting begged them, frankly, the BMA not to go on strike, pointing out we've got this flu epidemic, but it's going ahead anyway.
Well, the Doctors' Union, the BMA, says that 83% of members voted to continue with the industrial action.
Prime Minister's called the decision irresponsible as flu cases surge and hospitals under pressure, but that's as they are every winter. We're going to talk to the GP, Dr Dean Eggett, who joins us now. Dr Dean, good morning to you. GPs have a hard time when they go on strike. What do you make of the fact these doctors are going on strike right now, run up to Christmas? We do have this major flu crisis. Could they have picked a worst possible time? But perhaps that's why they've done it, because that's when you wreak the maximum leverage.
Good morning, both of you. It does feel like the ultimate plan to destroy the NHS at the moment, doesn't it? This is the 14th round of walkouts from our resident doctors, costing the British taxpayer nigh on £2 billion now, affecting at least 1.5 million patients who have now had to prolong their health problem. And this is now happening at a time where we possibly have one of the worst flu crises hitting the UK in many years. At winter time, I just can't think of a more damning plan by doctors to wreck the health service.
Now, the first time they went on strike, perhaps the resident doctors did have some public sympathy, but having received an initial 28.9% pay rise when this government came into power, I think they've lost the public sympathy in terms of wanting increased pay. However, demands for increased job opportunities do seem fair. There does seem to be a big problem with not enough training posts for those who've started out in NHS training. But Wes Streeting was offered to sort that out. So why have they rejected this latest deal?
Well, I think it comes back to the original point of the resident doctors, which is actually the terms and conditions of their employment is only part of the issue, but a bigger part of the issue to them appears to be the pay, and that appears to be a sticking point for the government. Now, it's really important to point out here that whilst the resident doctors are sticking this strike out because they want a change in pay, yes, changes to employment really is an important topic. And Wes Streeting and the government actually do need to keep that side of the promise. So Wes has gone on to say that he doesn't want to be held hostage by the resident doctors, and therefore, if they do go on this strike, then he's going to take off the changes to the terms and conditions off the table, which means then that we're going to have more unemployment amongst our resident doctors, and that seems to be harmful to patients too. So we have here resident doctors who are willing to harm patients for an increase in pay, but also a health secretary who is willing to harm patients into the long term simply because he doesn't want to be held hostage by the BMA in a situation that he created himself. I don't think anybody's coming out of this smelling of roses.
Can you explain to us as well, Dr. Dean, because the BMA say the health secretary is exaggerating the impact of the flu epidemic crisis, call it what you others say, it's no different to any other winter. You're a GP, you're seeing patients. Is it worse than normal, the flu problem?
Yes, I don't think this is an exaggeration. If you look at the sheer numbers, what we have at the moment is a severe uptick in the number of patients that are in hospital with the flu. Now, this could either be one of two things. It could either be that the usual flu wave is hitting early because we normally hit our peak in January, or it could be that actually it has started early and it will continue to grow and it will hit the peak in January as usual and follow the trajectory. Now, if it does hit the peak in January as usual and follows this current trajectory, this will be a devastating year for patients and for the NHS. And let's bring this back to patients, because we're talking about Wes Streeting and the BMA, but actually what this is patients being affected by this. And I remember as a young child reading in the news that ambulance services might be going on strike. And what we're going to see is patients sat at home thinking, am I safe? Am I okay? Can I access the health service when I'm really in trouble here? So this isn't just about Wes Streeting and the BMA. This is about patients, 1.5 million of whom have suffered in the past and more will continue to suffer now in a flu crisis.
Now, as a GP, you have to make decisions on a daily basis about whether to admit patients who come to you who you think might need hospital treatment, sometimes urgently. How will this strike affect the care that GPs can provide and the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis?
The NHS has been on its knees for years. We have really poor bed capacity in the NHS. So if for example, we have around 2.4 beds per 1,000 patients in the NHS compared to around 8 beds per 1,000 patients in Germany. So all year round, we already have a terrible bed crisis. And we can see that over a summer period when I try to get patients admitted to the hospital. Very often now I'm just told, well, actually, we can't admit them, please send them to A&E. Now, if that's over the quiet summer period, imagine what that's going to be like over winter. Add in addition to that doctor strikes, and add in addition to that is terrible flu season. This is an utter catastrophe for the NHS. But this is not a catastrophe that is just in the making now. This has been on the way for years, and both sides, resident doctors and the government, are partly to blame here.
Can we make you the health secretary,
Yes.
Dr. Dean?
I was thinking that.
I'll be very, very happy to. And yes, I will listen to patients.
I think you do a much better job. That's the GP Dr. Dean Eggett. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, he didn't pull his punches, and he says the health secretary is not exaggerating about the flu epidemic.
No, I mean, he described the whole situation very articulately in just a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just shows what pressure GPs are under. People, of course, complain when they can't get to see their GP. But GPs are having to make constant decisions about whether to send people for tests, whether to try to admit people, knowing that if they try to admit a patient, they're probably going to be on the phone for a couple of hours trying to get to bed. I mean, they're in an impossible situation.
Really are, really are. I wonder what you think about that. Do tell us. Now, of course, first, though, it's time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. It's £85,000. Here's all the details you need. Good luck.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, find out why thousands of speeding fines are set to be scrapped.
We're going to that and a lot more with two people who always stick to the speeding limit, Lord Steve McCabe and Dr. Rennie Hunterkamp. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So this is a lovely story because it's about a chap who bought this DB5 and he bought it for 900 quid. This is an Aston Martin DB5.
It's a lovely car.
Bought it for 900 quid. And then for 50 years, pretty much didn't do very much. He moved to the Middle East, car left was on his driveway, things happened, the local kids jumped on it and various other things, and it just decayed. He has spent pretty much the big wodge of 400 grand having it done.
Do you have a picture of this car now?
Oh, I thought as I was waffling. Well, I can hold it up. But this is how it looks now. There we go. This is how it looked then and now. I don't know which.
So he spent 400 grand on this.
400 grand. He sent it back to Aston Martin.
Oh.
To where it was made, and the reason it's worth now about $1 million is because there were only 37, I think,
39
of them made, and so it's very rare. There we go. Well done, him.
Pretty penny on that. Good for him.
Yeah. Yes, and good for him.
He hasn't made it yet.
No, he hasn't made it. It's just worth. I know. He may.
I was reading a story about a man who'd spent £1 million on a DB5, and it's now worth 500,000. But, they hit a peak a couple of years ago, but who knows? Who knows?
But don't you want to put money on a car in order to use it, not to sell it?
Well,
I had a car like that. I drive it.
Of course. No, then that's what he's not selling it. He's worked hard. He said we've worked hard to get it
it's a work of art.
Reconditioned, and he loves it.
I wonder, does it have machine guns and things they're going to...
Oh no! Weirdly, it says no.
Or an ejector
no ejector seat, exactly, or any of those other things. Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. 22 minutes past 10. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Case.
We've got our panel, Labour peer and former Minister Steve McCabe and GP and commentator Dr. Rennie Hunterkamp. Great story on the front of the Mail, my lord. It's yet another scandal, in my view. They can't even get parking, speeding fines, right? This is motorways, particularly smart motorways. The technology has been failing since 2021. And probably millions of pounds now being compensated for. So people have been given speeding fines, and they haven't been speeding.
Yeah, well, it's another win for the Department of Transport, isn't it? Look, I suppose the question is, how long have they known about this? That's the first thing that we need to ask. I'm inclined to say, obviously, this is a problem that the present government has inherited, which is why I do want to know how long they've known. But look, the bottom line here is this is going to result in millions of pounds of compensation, I suspect. And of course, you just wonder if this is an issue, how many other kind of transport-related offences are now going to be called into question?
The thing is, really, people may have been, not only have they been fined, they may have then got an endorsement on their licence. Their insurance goes up. Some people may have been banned as a result. Can't get their licence back. Some may have lost their jobs because they got a speeding fine. How can you get any of that back?
Well, exactly, and this is the thing, and I think when you decide as a nation that you're going to make the motorists the villain and you're going to use them as your cash cow, which is what has happened over the last, 10 years or so, then you've got to get it right. You can't work with dodgy data that actually just rakes in the money for you without consequences down the line. So, I mean, we laugh at this because it's funny, but it isn't funny, as you rightly say, because people will have been affected so badly. And for me, as I said to you in the break, Andrew, these are the people who run this kind of thing, who want us to give them all of our digital ID in one place, and they expect us to believe they can look after it.
And it's just these overhead gantries were telling, when they go from 50 to 40, there was an error, a glitch on every smart motorway and a lot of A roads. So people thought they were doing 40, but they were actually being timed at 50. And it's only come to light because people saw... I've got it the other way around.
No, but it wasn't all coming. They reckon around 40% of the cameras had a fault, but that's a significant proportion.
That's nearly half.
It's just outrageous, isn't it? And as you say, the government are strapped for cash, allegedly, and I would say they're not. They just choose to spend it in the wrong way. And now they're going to have to give a huge chunk of it back.
Is it fair to blame the government or even the previous government? I mean, this is the DVLA. They're responsible for the technology that drives these different cameras and these speed limits. Isn't it just proof that these bodies have become so arm's length that actually the government doesn't have control of them anymore anyway?
Well, I think the Department of Transport has got a long history of making errors and not owning up early enough. Interestingly enough, there was a debate in the Lords just last night about cycling offences and how loath the department are to pursue people, in London, where it's actually a risk to walk on the pavement sometimes.
Because of cycles, but bikes and going through red lights.
Yeah, and so, I think it was Lord Hogan Howe made the point, it's all right to say cycling is good for your health, but it's not very good if you're a pedestrian walking around the streets of London. And the department should pursue these people.
But here's another point. The Daily Mail has exposed this. If the Daily Mail hadn't exposed it, would we know? No. Were they ever going to tell us?
No, of course not.
It's got echoes of the Post Office scandal, Horizon IT scandal. Were we ever going to be told the truth?
No, probably not. And that then makes you question every single thing that relies on machinery to enforce it. Every single thing.
Shall we move on to a story that's actually breaking this morning about President Trump, who's suspended a £31 billion tech prosperity deal with Britain, apparently concerned about the Online Safety Act and perhaps even more significantly, the tax regime that US tech companies might be exposed to. Steve, do you think that very expensive second state visit might have been a waste of time?
Yes. Well, a trade deal certainly shouldn't be just for a royal visit, and I think this is extremely disappointing. I think the real issue here is that the Americans are asking for quite a massive relaxation in some of our safety standards, and it will be very difficult for us to comply, and the public, are already anxious about certain food products. The other thing is, it's not an online safety tax. I mean, what they're complaining about is the fines against the tech companies, which most people in this country agree with because they're designed for child safety issues. So, I mean, I think in this occasion, the Americans have got this wrong, and it's a terrible loss if we don't have this deal, but we can't have it at any price, and I'm very sceptical about this complaint.
But for Starmer, it was trumpeted as the great reward of the state visit in September, which was controversial, Steve, because it was unprecedented. No president of the United States has ever been given a second state visit. Starmer almost pushed it on him in the White House. And now it appears it's the emperor with no clothes. We got nothing out of it at all. And Trump got lots of prestige.
Well, yes, and I mean, I suppose when you invite a guest to your house, you expect them to behave in a particular way. And as I say, it is very disappointing. But at the end of the day, despite the fact that this is a great loss for British trade and British companies, I don't think we should roll over, because I think the question about safety standards and children's safety in terms of the online arrangements are too important.
I think it shows a few things that are actually at odds here. I think, firstly, that state visit was just show and they wanted to announce something. But then moving on from there, we're looking at the fence that Starmer is trying to sit on between EU closer relationships and a deal with the US, and those two do not marry because the EU rules are nowhere near what they would accept from the US.
Because I'm sure that the regulatory environment is something to do with it, but at the end of the day, US tech companies already pay far too little tax here, but the Americans want to pay even less, and that's just not fair.
Well, no, that I was going to say was the next dilemma. Yeah, that's the next dilemma. And actually, if you think about the average working person here who really is not feeling more prosperous, and they look at these billionaires who are running all of these things, from Jeff Bezos to Elon Musk, paying very little tax here. They do want those people taxed. I would disagree with you over people saying, we're protecting child safety, because that's a whole other argument. We're not. It doesn't do that. And you would agree with me, it probably doesn't do that. Oh, you don't agree with me? OK. I don't think it does. I don't think it does protect children. That's my issue.
Well, there's been a huge decrease, for example, in children accidentally coming across Bondi.
OK.
So it has had some strong impacts already.
But I do agree that we want to see these people pay the tax that they are due in this country, so that, it's fairer, and it's not fair. These people are running the world.
Yeah,
they are running the world.
Steve, it's interesting. No government seems to be able to make these. I was just about to use a bad word. I got into trouble. Make these companies pay their just taxes. Why not? Why are governments scared of them? Is it because their lawyers are much cleverer than Treasury lawyers and they run rings around them? Or is it just because they just ship all their money through Luxembourg?
It is absolutely true that they employ some of the most expensive and well-heeled lawyers in the world, and the average regulator trying to combat that doesn't have much of a chance, which is why so much regulation goes for low fruit rather than going for the real targets. I think that is a major part of the problem. I think litigation is always on the side of big, powerful global outfits. But, the truth is, countries around the world need to get together to combat this. And I think it's massively about the tax issue, but I also do think the safety issue is important. I mean, content is the argument. What do we want our children able to access, and what should be restricted? And who can do that? Well, the tech companies can do it. They are the people who are in control, and we are entitled to demand higher standards.
The Australian example is interesting because I think 2 weeks ago there...
Well, I support that.
I was just going to say, but if the tech companies put up an enormous fight at the Australian legislation to stop children getting on social media until they're 16. But in the end, they've had to roll over and change their rules in that jurisdiction. I mean, do you think that could happen here?
I'd love it to happen. I've campaigned against smartphones for kids. You know this. I think the only way to stop kids accessing this, because kids are clever, especially when they're teenagers with VPNs, is to not give them the access in the first place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just can't see it ever going to be resolved.
I think that in time, parents will be educated if we do the job properly.
Right.
And as I've said before, we don't let our kids smoke or drink because we now realise that that's bad for them. And when they're given the right information, eventually parents will turn the tide as well.
Yeah.
A lot of damaged kids in between.
Yes,
because it's
they're already there.
Yeah, I'm afraid they are.
And the evidence is coming out every day now in terms of, for example, amount of time spent on a screen just at school. So not on the phone, but on school iPads and computers. I mean, there's a direct link between the amount of time you spend on the screen And your grades, you know, they go down and down and down the more time you spend.
Is the average child spending 10 hours a day on a gadget?
I mean, my 7-year-old said to me on Friday when I picked her up for school, ended school, she had some holiday homework on paper in her bag. I said, oh, good, we've got that. She said, yes, they gave me that because they gave everybody else the sign-on to something rock stars.
Oh,
and
yes,
they know that you don't like it, Mummy.
Good.
So she's 7 and she already understands that I don't like that, I don't want it. And I just tell her why.
Yeah.
But she's already a bit of an outcast as a result in a class of 7-year-olds.
That's shocking. Pity there aren't more mums like Renee.
Absolutely. Hear, hear. Well, she will be thankful in the future, I have no doubt.
That's what I tell her.
Yes, as she mumbles and moans about Mummy to her school friends.
Well, thank you so much to our panel. We'll be back with you in an hour. But next, we've got your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 10:33. The headlines. Hate speech on Britain's streets has gone on for far too long. That's the warning from the chief rabbi after the Bondi Beach terror attacks. Sir Ephraim says chants like "globalise the Intifada" risk violence. Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed that extra security at Jewish events across the UK will be in place this week. That comes as Australian police say they're investigating claims the 2 Bondi Beach gunmen travelled to the Philippines just weeks before the attack to get military-style training. The Australian Prime Minister says the massacre, which killed 15 people, appears to have been motivated by IS ideology. In the US, Donald Trump has now filed a defamation lawsuit against the BBC. He's seeking up to £7.5 billion in damages over a panorama programme he says selectively edited his January 6th speech. MPs here are urging Sir Keir Starmer to stand up for the broadcaster. The BBC says it's standing firm and has not yet responded to the court filing. UK unemployment has risen to 5.1%. That's the highest level since early 2021. The ONS says young people are being hit hardest. Unemployment among 18 to 24-year-olds has jumped by 85,000. Ministers admit the figures underline the scale of the challenge. And a 5-day doctors' strike in England will go ahead from tomorrow after talks with the government collapsed. The Prime Minister calls it irresponsible as flu cases surge. But the BMA says pay is still far below 2008 levels in real terms. Those are the headlines for now. A full roundup from me at 11.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Oh, Sam, I'm sure that was more than 60 seconds. Very interesting, though.
No, but they don't teach counting much at school these days, modern schools. Now, as we've discussed, Donald Trump will be suing the BBC for $10 billion. They've come back fighting with this statement.
As we have made clear previously, we will be defending this case. We are not going to make further comment on ongoing legal proceedings. Well, there you have it. Coming up next, is university a waste of money? Well, new research shows how much more money some people are making going into apprenticeships rather than taking the academic route.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I think a lot of you at home are going to be quite annoyed with this. Now, Tesco, the big supermarket chain, appears to have got rid of the famous Christmas trees, instead renaming them evergreen
trees.
Evergreen
There's
trees.
the evergreen tree.
Here we are. So if you're listening on the radio, these are pictures of their boxes of artificial Christmas trees without the word Christmas on them at all, instead calling them evergreen trees. There are still a number of Christmas trees available called Christmas trees. But I think it has clearly annoyed quite a lot of people. Why do you call them evergreen trees? Can't you just call them Christmas?
Just call them Christmas trees. I call them Christmas trees even outside of the time of Christmas. If they look like a Christmas tree, I call them a Christmas tree, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And the Conservative leader of the London Assembly, Susan Hall, she's told The Telegraph, it's Christmas. It's a Christmas tree. People don't tend to put up green plastic fir trees for any other reason. It's all stupid nonsense about offending other people and other religions. Well, below that, this is supposed to be a Christian country. We have Christmas. Let's celebrate it, says Susan Hall.
Actually, other religions are not offended by the celebration of Christmas in a Christian country. You speak to Hindus and Buddhists and the vast majority of Muslims, they're not in the slightest bit bothered and actually will join in those celebrations as well. It doesn't offend them. But what you've got are marketing divisions within these big companies where you've got Tarquin and Tabitha who feel that we must, you know, do what we can do to not offend the great British public. When the great British public are the ones that are actually buying the product and they're not in the slightest bit offended.
Can I just say it offends me that we've got Christmas already and it's not December.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say. Because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In South Tyneside, the A19 northbound between the junctions with the A185 and the A187 is closed due to an incident involving an overturned vehicle. On the M60 anti-clockwise in Salford, there is a vehicle fire between junction 17 and junction 15, causing one-lane closure. The A477 westbound between Landerraw and Red Roses faces a lane closure due to an incident. Meanwhile, the A92 southbound at the Lochgelly off-slip is limited due to a broken-down vehicle, and on the trains, expect disruption on Hull trains and Elna between Selby and Hull. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Welcome back to 21 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom.
So a new report from the Centre of Social Justice, which is our favourite think tank, claims that half of graduates would be better off financially if they never went to university at all.
Yes, experts suggest that opting for apprenticeships is a better option as students could earn around £5,000 more per year than the average graduate.
So here's the question we're asking today. Can university be, is it, a waste of money?
Well, joining us now is the senior researcher for the Centre for Social Justice, Dan Lilly. Dan, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us in your very fetching Christmas jumper. This is an astonishing report that has support from all the major political parties. Tell us what you found.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we say, we have this serious imbalance in our education system where we have great schools and great universities, but what has led to is a situation where technical training has been underappreciated, undervalued and marginalised. And we now have a situation where we have the highest rate of overqualification in the OECD. And as you both highlighted, the average level 4 apprenticeship earns you 5 years after graduating, and this is for people who went in immediately after school, earns you an average of £5,000 more per year than a university degree, and £12,500 more per year than the lowest quartile of university degrees.
And of course, Daniel, students, of course, leave university, a lot of them, with tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt too.
Absolutely, yeah, which is a really important point, that when you're doing an apprenticeship, you're earning during that time that you are learning. Whereas while doing a degree, you're racking up debt during that period of time. So the university lifestyle that we talk of as uniquely appealing, which does have its own unique value, also has its own unique burden of debt.
Now, Dan, it's so interesting that the political parties agree that too many people are going to university. And in your report, it suggests that actually parents agree, and parents increasingly are seeing the value of technical training over a university experience. But it seems to be the students themselves who are desperate for this experience, this kind of almost coming of age 3 years where they get to enjoy university life. So is the key to this persuading 16-year-olds that they might want a different path? I mean, what's the answer?
Yeah, absolutely. This gets right to the heart of the question, which is what is causing this massive imbalance when, as you say, we have senior figures from 4 different parties agreeing with the thesis that there is this profound imbalance. We find if you poll parents, they're far more likely to value an apprenticeship for the possibility of getting a good job for their children than a university degree. And yet still we have far more going into university. There are a few reasons for this, but I think the clearest one is that if you are a high quality student at A-level, the path where you have the most support, the path that's clearest, the path you trust the most, at the moment is by miles the university path. And you have to have a huge level of initiative and bravery to try and take yourself down that apprenticeship route without a proper scaffolding of people who know how to help you in that around you.
Part of the other problem, of course, Daniel, is we keep hearing government saying there'll be more. There simply aren't enough good apprenticeships. When I was a kid leaving school back in the 70s, early 80s, it was an honourable, noble thing to do to leave school at 16 and go into an apprenticeship of 3 or 4 years. It's not anything like as easy as it was today as it was then.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another crucial part of the story, that apprenticeships have to be employer-led to a degree, that the employer has to take you on and they have to train you. And if we don't create a situation where that's appealing for employers, because they aren't confident that they'll be able to get around the regulatory burdens, they aren't confident they'll keep them after they've qualified, they aren't confident that they can properly evaluate whether the people coming will be high quality, then they won't offer them. And you have this problem of a lack of demand and a lack of supply, that each feed each other. As supply is poor, it keeps demand from getting high because they're not sure they can find a good one. And that also then keeps supply down because there isn't high demand for that supply to be offering.
So very briefly, what are your recommendations? How do we end the obsession with university education?
Absolutely, this is the fundamental question, and this report kicks off a series where we will be getting into the real detail of how we can resolve this. We outline 5 principles for change in the report, particularly around prioritising technical earlier, understanding regional labour markets, and a few other areas. The next thing, looking at those, we're going to be looking at the Greater Manchester Baccalaureate. One of our backers is Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester, and he has a major new initiative to try and grapple with this problem.
Great stuff.
I do. I think, Joan, it's a lovely irony that the Labour Party is coming around to this way of thinking, because, of course, it was Tony Blair who championed the idea that all school leavers, at least 50% of school leavers, should go to university. And his own son, Ewan, as you will know, has been pioneering this idea of high-quality apprenticeships because he thinks his father got it completely wrong.
Well, we'll see. The family Christmas table discussions might be interesting.
Well, you know.
Thank you, Dan, so much. Really appreciate it. And great to hear about the report. Keep us updated. That's Dan Lilly, the Senior Researcher at the Centre for Social Justice.
In fact, Ewan Blair is worth, I think, he's in the Sunday Times Rich list.
Yeah, he's done well.
He's done very, very well.
Probably had some good contacts.
Yeah, I should think his father's in the Sunday Times Rich, but we would never know how much he's really worth, would we? All the dodgy people he worked for after he left Number 10.
Not here to defend himself, Andrew.
Come on, anytime, Tony. You're very welcome, Mr. Blair. Anytime you like. I know you watch us sometimes, you've told me.
There you have it. Well, up next, if your pearly whites or tombstones are like Andrew's, are causing you pain. Who wrote this auto cue? We have some great news anyway, incoming about dentists and increased access to dentists.
But here's that elusive weather forecast, if you are looking for that elusive warm sun, because it's pretty chilly here today, isn't it?
It is.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading overseas for a holiday, well, you'll find plenty of fine weather in Greece and Cyprus, Italy too, but fairly showery with a keen northerly breeze for the Canary Islands and some heavy rain across eastern Spain. That's going to stick around for a couple of days. Meanwhile, ahead of another area of low pressure, Italy and Greece are largely fine, but there is another low on the way, arriving into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, patients across England will be able to get urgent, well, this is what the government says anyway, dental appointments more easily thanks to an overhaul of NHS dentistry.
While dentists will be paid more to see patients in need of treatment for issues such as severe pain, infections or trauma to teeth, this is all under new reforms.
The Policy Exchange think tank says the move could save NHS dentistry and fix our national smile.
Well, joining us now is the chair of the British Dental Association, Eddie Crouch. Mr Crouch, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Do you think these proposals will do what the government says? Could this be the answer to the crisis in dentistry?
Well, I think it'll probably make a difference, yes. I mean, we've been working to a contract now for 20 years that hasn't really been fit for purpose. We've had health select committees and various austere bodies within the NHS calling this contract not fit for purpose. These are tweaks to the contract. What we would want is a significant reform of the contract. This isn't it. This comes with no new money, but for patients who are requiring lots of dental treatment, lots of fillings, lots of gum treatments, this will make it slightly more profitable for dentists to provide that, and it will make it easier for those patients to get that type of treatment.
Is it going to stop the mass exodus, Mr Crouch, of your colleagues from the NHS into the private sector?
And not this alone, no. Sadly, that continues apace. We know 14 million people at the moment are looking for access to an NHS dentist in England alone. And this won't stop the exodus because, as I say, this comes with no new money. Whilst dentists will be paid more for individual procedures, the global amount of money being spent on dentistry isn't changing.
What's the answer to this problem? Do we need to move to an insurance-based system? Is this simply a matter of money, or do other countries do things differently?
Yeah, I mean, lots of countries do very much different dental systems. We've had honest conversations with the Minister, Stephen Kinnock. I think Stephen Kinnock is a decent chap. He wants to actually improve things. I don't think he's been given the resources from the Treasury. So I think we have to have an honest conversation. You know, we as a profession want to provide care for patients who can't access it. But if we haven't got any more money, then we have to have an honest conversation about where that money is actually directed to. And if that is to a cohort of the population who can't afford to go privately or have private dental insurance, then let's have that conversation. But at the moment, we're not having that conversation.
And Mr. Crouch, we know, don't we, that statistically the greatest reason why so many children are admitted to hospital is dental teeth related.
Yeah, and one of the other good things about these changes, which probably hasn't hit the headlines yet, is that it will actually reward dentists to actually do preventative treatment rather than actual drilling and filling and extracting et al. So this will allow dentists to actually apply fluoride varnish to children's teeth and actually be remunerated for that, and actually put fissure sealants on children's teeth as well to help prevent decay. So there are elements in this that we welcome.
That is very good news, Mr. Crouch. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Eddie Crouch, who's the chair of the British Dental Association. That does sound positive. Improving children's teeth in those early years is good news
really
for life. But still, the number of people who haven't seen a dentist for years is quite extraordinary.
When I was at infant school, they used to come in to the school.
Yes, I remember that. Yes, I don't know if they still
I wonder if that does happen. Let us know what you think. Still ahead, the Bondi Beach gunman has woken up from a coma in hospital. We're going to have the latest. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Watch out for a bit of fog developing overnight, but before that, today is actually largely fine for most of us. That being said, we do have a front lying across eastern parts of England at the moment. This is bringing some wet weather. Eventually, it's going to clear away towards the east, and then there are also a fair few showers across parts of northwest Scotland, and some of these could be falling as a bit of a wintry mix, so a bit of sleet or snow possible over higher ground. Elsewhere, though, a lot of dry weather and some decent sunshine as well, particularly towards the northwest and across some central parts, with temperatures, if anything, a few degrees above average for the time of year. As we go into this evening, we're going to continue to see a fair few showers across parts of northern and western Scotland. Still, some of these falling as a bit of sleet or snow over higher ground. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry with some clear skies as we go into the overnight period. Across Northern Ireland, it's looking mostly dry to end the day, just one or two coastal showers. And then across the bulk of England and Wales, lots of dry weather, lots of clear skies, just a bit cloudier across eastern parts, and some of that rain still clinging on across parts of East Anglia and Kent. Where we get those clear skies through the start of the night, we are going to quite readily see a bit of mist and fog developing. That could cause some localised issues. In the east, that fog's going to develop and become quite dense in places. Further west, it will start to lift and clear away as a band of rain pushes its way in. Ahead of that rain, with some clear skies and that mist and fog, temperatures dropping a little bit lower than some recent nights. It's a bit of a chilly start for some of us. And then, as we go through tomorrow, well, wet weather sweeping its way in from the west. Some of the rain is going to turn quite heavy, particularly across parts of the southwest. And here we could see some disruption, a bit of flooding, some issues to travel as well. We're also going to see some blustery winds, and so they will take the edge off the temperatures, which, if anything, are still above average for the time of year.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash, the largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, the 16th of December, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Now, you might remember this from our GB News presenter Bev Turner's interview with Donald Trump last month.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
Well, things have been developing overnight.
A little while you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth. Literally, they put words in my mouth.
And breaking the last hour, the BBC say they will fight Donald Trump's $10 billion defamation lawsuit after they admitted they doctored one of his speeches. But guess who will be paying their bill?
And in breaking news and sticking with the US, Donald Trump has suspended the £31 billion tech trade deal with Britain, slating our online safety laws and the digital services tax.
And the Bondi Beach gunman, Naveed Akram, has woken up from his coma in hospital. His car was found loaded with explosives and homemade ISIS flags.
Is the Prime Minister aware that some farmers who have terminal diagnosis now are actively planning to expedite their own deaths so they hit before April? Is he aware of that?
I've had discussions with a number of individuals who've drawn all manner of things to my attention.
Well, that was the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer being challenged on claims that his inheritance tax changes are pushing farmers to the brink. And his reply has sparked fury.
And good luck seeing the doctor this Christmas. Thousands of them are going on strike tomorrow after weeks of negotiations failed with Health Secretary Wes Streeting.
I've blamed you and lectured you.
and you have borne it as no other woman in England would have borne it.
Well, that was the GB News presenter Michael Portillo reading an extract from his favourite Jane Austen novel called Emma, as we are celebrating the author's 250th anniversary. Now, my favourite from Jane Austen, from Pride and Prejudice, the BBC adaptation from the 90s, it was an absolute hit, was the scene of Mr. Darcy emerging from a lake.
Mr. Darcy?
That was Colin Firth, of course, but I'm sorry, I think it's rather dated with time. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. The style and the colours and...
Because it was a... Everyone talked about it when that scene was broadcast originally, but I think they now think, so what?
But this was before the internet. This
Yes.
was the time when millions of millions tuned in to watch shows like that live, rather than now this really fragmented situation where small numbers of people watch different things. Everybody talked about this.
They did.
Colin Firth making Pride and Prejudice sexy.
It did popularise Jane Austen in a
Sure
way,
did.
which was great. And Miriam still... Did you have a picture of Colin Firth on your wall?
Actually, but I have seen the series a few times, Andrew.
Oh, she keeps freezing on that scene.
It's not me, I don't control it.
Yeah. Does your husband know about this?
Well, he does now, Andrew, so we'd love to...
We know he watches and we know he listens. If you're listening, Dave, there we are. You now know about your wife's secret passion. Her guilty secret has come to light. She's blushing under all that makeup. Now as ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views. Post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. And someone who we can trust to behave himself is Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 11 o'clock, well, the top story this hour, hate speech on Britain's streets has gone on for far too long. That is the warning from the chief rabbi after the Bondi Beach terror attack. Sir Ephraim says chants like globalise the intifada risk violence. Sir Keir Starmer, though, has confirmed extra security will be put in place at events for Jewish people across the UK this week. Well, that comes as new details are emerging about the gunman behind the massacre in Sydney. Indian police in the last few minutes saying that 50-year-old Sajid Akram was originally from the southern city of Hyderabad and had limited contact with his family there. Authorities in India saying that relatives were unaware of any radical beliefs or activities, as Australian police are now examining possible overseas links. Detectives are investigating claims that the two men may have travelled to the Philippines just weeks before the attack with what's being described as military-style training there. 15 people killed in Sunday's shooting, 22 understood to still be in hospital and 9 in critical condition. Donald Trump has said he is suing the BBC, launching a multi-billion-dollar legal action over what he calls a doctored edit of his January 6th speech. The US president claims a Panorama documentary falsely made it appear he called for violence at the Capitol, accusing the broadcaster of defamation and misleading editing. The BBC has apologised for giving a mistaken impression, but insists there is no basis for a defamation claim. In a statement in the last hour or so, a spokesperson for the broadcaster said the BBC will defend the case and will not comment further while legal proceedings are ongoing. Well, let's take a listen to the president speaking from the Oval Office.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. They put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say.
Here, UK unemployment has risen to 5.1%. That's the highest level since early 2021. The Office for National Statistics says young people are being hit hardest, with unemployment among 18 to 24-year-olds jumping by 85,000. Ministers admit the figures underline the scale of the challenge. And earlier today, the Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride spoke to us here on GB News. He claims the unemployment figures are a direct consequence of the Chancellor's decisions.
If you tax jobs, national insurance going up, don't be surprised if you kill growth and increase unemployment. They've also borrowed and spent large amounts of money, stoked inflation. That means interest rates staying higher for longer, which also weighs down on the economy. And I'm afraid it all shows a party that just does not understand business.
The 5-day doctors' strike in England is set to go ahead this week after talks with the government collapsed. The British Medical Association says 83% of its members voted to continue industrial action. The Prime Minister, though, has called the decision irresponsible, with flu cases surging and hospitals already under pressure. Resident doctors, though, say their pay is still far lower than it was in real terms 15 years ago. Emergency and non-urgent care will be affected from tomorrow morning, with senior doctors stepping in to provide cover. Earlier, the Health Minister Stephen Kinnock spoke to us. He says the BMA needs to come into the real world.
Deeply disappointed by the decision that they've taken. We've given them a 28.9% pay rise. They're coming back and asking for 26% more. That's just not living in the real world. We've also said we'll do emergency legislation to solve this issue around foreign-trained doctors being prioritised over British-trained doctors, one of Boris Johnson's brilliant ideas, which has to be sorted out. Emergency legislation we've offered on that. They rejected that.
That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you shortly. Next, though, let's take a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Let's take a look at the markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3409 and €1.1402. The price of gold is £3,188, 65 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,718 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, Sam, he's got me into trouble because he wants me to read the snapshot of today's market again, but I can't read all those numbers, so I'm just going to leave it there.
She doesn't do numbers.
No, it's well known.
She's very good at playing the piano, though. You've got to watch our carol concert, by the way, on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day.
That's right.
It is fantastic. And the highlight, this one on the grand piano, playing beautifully a certain carol. Which one was it?
Oh, Holy Night. Well, the audience can
Do you know
decide.
what? I've been singing it ever since.
Yes, it's been
It gets
going
in your
round,
head,
right?
doesn't
Yes,
it?
that's right.
Really brilliant.
Yes, that's right. So it will be broadcast on the channel at 8 p.m. on Boxing Day, 7 p.m. on Christmas Day. Sorry, 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve, 7 p.m. on Christmas Day, and 11 a.m. on Boxing Day.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful service, a lovely church, St George's in Bickley in Bromley.
That's right, and one of our brilliant GB News vicars, Chris Tufnell, did the address, which was absolutely
Very
superb,
good, actually.
so it's well worth tuning in. Well, let's see what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say. Annie talking about that story about apprenticeships being better value than university education. She says, my son jacked in his sixth form, obtained a plumbing apprenticeship. He now has his own company. Likewise, all his friends did various apprenticeships. Most of them also have their own businesses, employing other tradesmen and office staff. Great story. And Peter says, in the 60s, if you couldn't get into a university, you went to a teacher training college where, with some of them, you could get in with 5 O-levels. Of course, back in the 60s, I think about 5 or 6% of school leavers went to universities, now nearly 50.
Yeah, too many.
John says, time to go back to a small number of universities and more technical colleges for apprenticeships. Quite agree, that's what they do in places like Germany. And then on the dental story, Alison says, many people really cannot afford treatment and end up at A&E with abscesses. It's a dreadful state of affairs that working people can't afford dental care. And not just can't afford it, can't get into a dentist, even if they can afford to pay.
Now, Sir Keir Starmer suggested that he does know that some farmers have been so pushed to the edge by the inheritance tax imposition that they are contemplating or have taken their own life. He was talking at the Commons Liaison Committee yesterday. Take a listen.
Is the Prime Minister aware that some farmers who have terminal diagnosis now are actively planning to expedite their own deaths so they hit before April? Is he aware of that?
I've had discussions with a number of individuals who've drawn all manner of things to my attention.
I'm sorry, that is a terrible answer. Again. We've got in the studio a farmer, Cameron Kinch, who's been in the industry a long time. Your family's been in the industry a long time. What do you think of the Prime Minister's response?
Well, I sort of think he's finally listened, which is an improvement, I guess, because it's been, it's well over a year now since this policy was plucked out of thin air and brought into us, into the industry, and he's finally listened. He's just finally had his first meeting with the NFU president.
After all this time?
After all this time. They sent a junior Treasury Minister to meet with industry representatives about half a year ago. You're like, come on, this is a major policy change which wasn't in the manifesto.
Nope.
And it's come out of absolute nowhere. And they've taken this long to listen to industry. Because, look, I mean, it's an important point, and it shows why it's so... If farmers committing suicide because of this policy, if they don't understand how it gets to the very core of why we're farmers...
Can you explain why some farmers are contemplating it or have already done it?
Yeah, so the issue is... We had no warning about this a year ago. And you have 7 years, if you want to avoid this thing, to pass it on to the next generation. And the very best tax advice up until now has been to keep it in the top generation and family. Because most farms are family-run, family-owned, which is great. It's how it should be, I think. I think, you know, family businesses are the core of the country, and they should very much be. And so you now have sort of 7 years to transfer over. And in that 7-year gap, if whoever transferred it down dies, that means the sort of the lower generations who's had it are going to have to pay the tax on it if they die in that time. And when you have, you know, elderly farmers that probably, you know, have cancer, terminal illnesses, you can do the maths and you think, I don't have 7 years. And it's been all my life's work to pass it down to my kids. I really hope farmers don't take this choice.
And the point is that the tax bill will be so enormous that the heirs cannot afford to pay it, so they would have to sell the farm and basically end that heritage of farming in order to pay the tax bill. But you think that Keir Starmer might finally be listening? Could there be a U-turn on this policy, do you think?
Well, I certainly hope there will be. I mean, he's U-turned on wind fuel and other stuff, so I hope he does see sense and decides to care where we get our domestic food production in this country and how precious it is.
What about your own situation, Cameron? Are you in a family farm? Is it
family farm. Yeah, you know, it's like many others up and down the country. It's granddad, dad, mum, dad, and you can sort of gather what sort of happens. And yeah, it really is quite scary what might happen, but we'll see.
Because one day you want to be the farmer, you want to take it over.
Yeah. I'm gradually learning from Dad, but
of course.
it's getting there. But that's the thing with farming. There's so understanding the land and understanding it. There's so much to understand. You don't just go to some sort of uni or college. I know you guys were speaking about it earlier.
Yeah.
And it's a lifetime of work trying to understand how everything works, and you know, the fields are a precious thing.
And at the heart of this is a disagreement about the figures, isn't there? Because the government say that this tax change will only affect a tiny amount of the very wealthiest farmers. Some of them are actually just using land as a way of avoiding inheritance tax. That's what the government says. But the Farmers Union and farmers themselves says actually this will affect a huge proportion of very ordinary family farms and farmers that are not at all wealthy. How are they going to get to an agreement on these figures?
Well, this is the thing. If they wanted to stop people land banking land to avoid inheritance tax, you'd use a chisel to... You'd use a very fine policy. There's got to be some way to come up with it.
Is the land actually farmed?
Yeah, I think farmers would welcome that. But this is using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, quite frankly. And you just think, come on. The problem is that they've just plucked this policy out of thin air. Clearly, some civil servants at the Treasury have gone, look, you can use this to earn a little bit of money. This is the other thing. It's not earning that much money.
500 million or something.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of the Treasury...
Yeah, it's not much.
It's not at all.
And the grief it's causing, and the chaos and the uproar it's causing the farming industry. And, of course, if farms closed, a lot of the people who work in the agriculture sector are very lowly paid men and women.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, it's the whole rural economy. It's not just farmers. It's on our farm, we have an agronomist, we have a mechanic that comes and does the tractors, we have fencers, it's so many other jobs that rely on small family farms. And do we really want that to go by the wayside for some ill thought out policy? I don't think so.
Where's your farm?
Northumberland.
Oh, long way.
Yeah,
too.
It's pretty.
And the margins are so tight. We've talked to dairy farmers who tell us how much they're getting per litre of milk from the supermarkets. Barely nothing. They're barely breaking even.
I mean, it goes back to the whole suicide and farm thing. The margins are awful. I remember growing up, just milk prices just being absolutely on the floor and real mental health problems in farming because of it. And you look at my sector, arable, at the minute, you're looking at sell a tonne of wheat, about £170, but cost of production, £200. So you do the maths. This is why we can't afford to pay the tax. No. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
Well, Cameron Kinch, thank you so much for coming into the studio.
Keep fighting the fight.
And, of course, former Big Brother contestant as well. Well, if you've been affected by any of the topics we've discussed today, you can find help through the Samaritans, calling 116 123, and also through their website, samaritans.org.
Now, time for our Great British giveaway. You can win £85,000. What an extraordinary prize. Here's how you do it, and the best of luck.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back, and moving on now, Reform MP Richard Tice is outlining new research showing American private equity companies are making hundreds of millions of pounds from special educational needs and disability service. Well, we'll be bringing you the best bits of that press conference.
And up next, resident doctors are going on strike for 5 days from tomorrow. We used to know them as junior doctors after repeated attempts by Health Secretary Wes Streeton to stop the strike. We're asking, should doctors ever down tools?
Well, we'll be going through that and more with Lord Steve McCabe and Dr Renee Honderkamp. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11:23. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Panel are back. The Labour peers, Steve McCabe, and the GP and commentator Dr. Rennie Hunterkamp are with us.
Now, can we start with you, Renee? Because there's this story, I think the Telegraph had it yesterday, about the BMJ, the British Medical Journal, so the newspaper of doctors, if you like, defending female genital mutilation, FGM.
Gross.
And you've written a very strong piece in the Mail today about why the BMJ is so wrong to go down this route. Can you tell us more?
So wrong. I mean, this article suggested that we were looking at it through a Western lens and we were stigmatising a cultural practice. We didn't really understand it, that most of the women they talked to didn't use the word trauma and we do. So we should change the name of it so it wasn't quite so offensive. Written by 25 authors, 23 of whom were women, I would like to add, not all of them doctors. And I was apoplectic with rage because I have seen the women with this who arrive in this country, then get pregnant and turn up in gynae clinics or obstetric clinics with the most crippling disability, from stitching up their private parts. Let's not be too graphic on daytime TV. It is horrific. This is coming from a place where we have bent over backwards over the last 15 years to be kind to other cultures, and we now see the ramifications of that on our streets. We see grooming gangs where we also try to be kind and not talk about those cultural issues. This is the same thing. We are trying to not talk about a cultural practice which is barbaric.
Well, we can say it in this station. Who are these people who are doing it?
Muslims.
Muslim, there we are. And particular continent?
So there are 15 countries across Africa that do most of it. Places like Mali, Egypt, Sudan, Somalia. Most women in Somalia have this. The thing that people don't understand is that these young girls in villages are taken away by a witch doctor with a rusty razor blade, and a third of them die.
Oh.
One girl dies every 12 minutes in an African country of this procedure, and we have academics in the UK telling us to actually view it differently. It's cultural. Well, no. No, we don't send our children up chimneys anymore because we know that's not good for them. We don't let them smoke. So this is not, they're saying it's encroaching on cultural parental rights. Lots of things encroach on my parental rights. Some people don't want me to have the right to smack my child. Is that not, you know, nanny state? Where does it stop? Do we let people marry 12-year-olds now?
No.
You know, do we let women get stoned to death for not wearing the right clothes? Where does it stop? This is the slippery slope.
My lord, what do you think? It's a shocking article, actually.
Well, it is,
I read it.
I commend Rennie on her piece. Look, it is terrible. It's astonishing that a British medical journal should produce this. I mean, as you say, it's largely a practice in African countries. But, of course, I think there was a report that said about 6,500 women and girls who visited GP surgeries last year were victims of FGM. So, I mean, you know, it's happening in this country. It's not always carried out in this country, and there have been great efforts to try and restrict it. I mean, I think you can go to prison for 14 years.
There have been 3 convictions in 15 years.
There haven't been many, but I mean, the law is there to protect it, and there are these sort of orders that can protect girls and seize passports to stop them being taken abroad. But I mean, quite frankly, the last thing we need is a medical journal trying to tell people it's okay. As you say, it's barbaric, it's some kind of warped mentality.
These are senior people writing in a respected journal, calling something that is truly evil good. I mean, what have we come to? When a respected paper like that will carry that article?
So what have we come to?
I think if they were to carry it, what I think they should have done was done an editorial alongside it saying, we deplore, we do not accept any of this, however we're prepared.
Unfortunately, don't forget that the BMJ, also the BMA, also commissioned a review of the CAS review because they didn't accept its findings. Most of these authors are involved in the gender ideology, so they agree with mutilating children that way too. What worries me about this is that social workers and teachers who are at the front line of picking out these girls who might be at risk might read this and think, maybe I don't have to do this. Maybe I'm being culturally inappropriate. And it will start to get even more underreported than it currently is.
Yeah, because I think you said 3 people have been imprisoned in 15 years. We don't know how many times it's been done, and the girl hasn't complained or hasn't gone to the authorities because she'd be too scared.
She'd be too scared, and it's unacceptable, too ashamed. And we have lots of these people here living in this country now who then have children, and they take them out of the country during school holidays and have it done somewhere else.
Which is why you really need a better identification model so that we can stop them being taken out of the country.
Now, Steve, I was going to ask, when you lot were in opposition, I thought you were going to stop these doctor strikes. I thought it was going to be Wes Streeting was going to wave a magic wand. It was all going to be so straightforward and easy, and now we're on our 2nd doctor strike, and you've only been in power 18 months. What's gone wrong?
Well, we thought we were going to stop them too, and that was the distinct impression that they gave us when we were having our initial negotiations with them. Look, what's the point in beating about the bush? They've become intoxicated with this kind of fantasy about industrial relations and strikes. It's like a throwback to Arthur Scargill or something. I don't know who's running the BMA at the moment, but you know, I've got a terrible vision of who they must be. Look, I think these people are doing nobody any favours, and they're not doing themselves any favours in the long run, because the clamour for much tougher action against them will grow. There was a time when they commanded enormous respect. I don't think that's the way people feel anymore. And they've actually been made a very good offer. They've had an exceptional pay offer. They've now rightly... Absolutely, they've had an exceptional pay offer, and they've now rightly been offered some assistance in terms of training programmes and greater opportunities for British-grown doctors to advance. It's a perfectly good deal, which any normal trade union negotiator would bite your hand off to accept. These people are just out of control.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have been invaded by militant momentum workers, and they don't like this government any more than they like the last one, and their aim is to actually just bring that government down. I will argue for them that we should be giving them jobs when they've trained for 9 years. We should be giving them better conditions, places in hospital where they can eat, be respected, not bullied by nurses, all of those things. But 29% is a pay rise that most people in this country would die for. And the thing to remember is they keep harking back to 2008. Most of these doctors were not even medical students in 2008. So they are not achieving something that they have lost. They knew what the salary was when they went into medicine.
When they say their pay hasn't been falling.
They want it backdated to before they were even out of school.
I know. And how, as a GP, what is the knock-on effect of these strikes?
Oh, it's just cancelled appointments. appointments, longer waiting lists, patients not knowing what's going to happen, patients being scared about it. We're then having to spend time when appointments are cancelled, trying to push it to see if we can get it sooner. It's a disaster in GP. And obviously people are also scared to go to A&E because they think that the wait list will be even longer. Yeah. So then they're pushing us, and we are rammed from dawn to dusk. Don't get me wrong, we are absolutely rammed.
Oh, depressing picture. Thank goodness it's Christmas, although don't get sick.
No, don't get sick, don't get sick. Did perhaps Wes Streeting's rhetoric was too tough?
I don't think so. I think he said what most people are thinking anyway. I don't think it was too tough. I just think, as I say, they are being utterly unreasonable, and you can't negotiate with that.
They did say they would do this in their WhatsApps after the 29% pay rise. They said, we'll come back again when the government are looking weak for more.
There shouldn't have been a no strings attached pay rise.
No.
It should have been a no industrial action for the next 4 years.
Of course, I agree.
Well, I wonder how Donald Trump would negotiate this. Well, thank you very much to our fantastic panellists. Yeah. And here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you, 11:32. The top story, hate speech on Britain's streets has gone on for far too long. That's the warning from the chief rabbi after the Bondi beach terror attack. Sir Ephraim says chants like globalise the intifada risk violence. Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed extra security will be in place at Jewish events across the UK this week. That comes as Australian police say they're investigating claims the 2 gunmen travelled to the Philippines just weeks before the attack to get military-style training. The Prime Minister says the massacre, which killed 15 people, appears to have been motivated by IS ideology. Donald Trump has now filed a defamation lawsuit against the BBC, seeking up to £7.5 billion in damages. MPs are urging Sir Keir Starmer to stand up for the broadcaster. The BBC says it is standing firm and will defend the case. UK unemployment, meanwhile, has risen to 5.1%. It's the highest level since early 2021. The ONS says young people are hit the hardest, and ministers admit the figures underline the scale of the challenge. And a 5-day doctor strike in England will go ahead from Wednesday after talks with the government collapsed. The Prime Minister's called it irresponsible as flu cases surge, but the BMA says pay is still far below 2008 levels in real terms. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup from me at midday.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Well, coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Cameron and Nana, who've joined us in the studio now. What's coming up on your show?
Well, we have the horrific instance of Paul Doyle driving into a crowd in Liverpool. Over 100 people were hit by his vehicle all the way back in May. We're expecting him to be sentenced during our airtime. So in the next kind of hour or so, we'll be bringing you that live. And Sophie Reaper, our reporter, will be bringing us the harrowing details.
I mean, yesterday she talked about the images that they saw from the dash cam, and she said it was so harrowing that actually she couldn't. A lot of people couldn't sit through it. But the way she described it was just frightening. This guy, you know, we'll see what happens with him. But also, on a lighter note, Only Fools and Horses. Do you remember that?
I do. Del Boy and Rodney.
Yeah, Del Boy and Rodney. Do you know how many episodes there were?
It wasn't many, like 12.
That was.
That was Fawlty Towers.
That was 12 of Fawlty Towers. I'd say there were 46.
Closest answer wins.
Which was?
Well,
I don't know, 47.
Well, actually, there were 60, but plus 9 Christmas ones as well. So 69, and it ran from 1981 to 2003.
Did it really?
Yeah, it really did. So 22 years it went for. Debbie Arnold, who was the wife of the character who played Boycie.
Yeah.
He died, sadly, though. I think it was in a couple of years ago, anyway. But she'll be talking to us about that. So there's a special one that they're doing.
My favourite scene is when he leans on the bar that isn't there.
Yeah, so lots of stuff that we haven't seen, which would be wonderful, because I've literally seen all of them.
Oh, you're a big fan.
I was a big fan.
They've delved into the archives, and we're going to be showing some of that, talking about that a bit later on, and of course the BBC and Trump.
Yes,
great stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Well, we are going to be talking about that as well. Up next, Trump takes on the BBC.
A little while you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth. Literally, they put words in my mouth.
Well, the US president launches that defamation case, but the BBC fire back, saying they will defend it. We'll have the latest. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Watch out for a bit of fog developing overnight, but before that, today is actually largely fine for most of us. That being said, we do have a front lying across eastern parts of England at the moment. This is bringing some wet weather. Eventually, it's going to clear away towards the east, and then there are also a fair few showers across parts of northwest Scotland, and some of these could be falling as a bit of a wintry mix, so a bit of sleet or snow possible over higher ground. Elsewhere though, a lot of dry weather and some decent sunshine as well, particularly towards the northwest and across some central parts, with temperatures, if anything, a few degrees above average for the time of year. As we go into this evening, we're going to continue to see a fair few showers across parts of northern and western Scotland. Still, some of these falling as a bit of sleet or snow over higher ground. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry with some clear skies as we go into the overnight period. Across Northern Ireland, it's looking mostly dry to end the day, just one or two coastal showers. And then across the bulk of England and Wales, lots of dry weather, lots of clear skies, just a bit cloudier across eastern parts, and some of that rain still clinging on across parts of East Anglia and Kent. Where we get those clear skies through the start of the night, we are going to quite readily see a bit of mist and fog developing. That could cause some localised issues. In the east, that fog's going to develop and become quite dense in places. Further west, it will start to lift and clear away as a band of rain pushes its way in. Ahead of that rain, with some clear skies and that mist and fog, temperatures dropping a little bit lower than some recent nights. It's a bit of a chilly start for some of us. And then, as we go through tomorrow, well, wet weather sweeping its way in from the west. Some of the rain is going to turn quite heavy, particularly across parts of the southwest. And here we could see some disruption, a bit of flooding, some issues to travel as well. We're also going to see some blustery winds, and so they will take the edge off the temperatures, which, if anything, are still above average for the time of year.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
11:39, Britain's News on GB News with Andrew and Miriam.
Well, the US president has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC over their doctored clips of one of his speeches.
BBC, the BBC is not allowing Trump to have it his own way. They've released a statement saying, "We've made clear previously we will be defending the case. We are not going to make further comment on ongoing legal proceedings."
Well, joining us now is the former head of religion at the BBC, Akil Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. What are your thoughts about Trump's decision to sue the BBC for such an enormous amount of money?
I mean, it's got all the hallmarks of a shakedown, hasn't it, really? I mean, this is we have a litigious society in America, and I fully understand that. And he has a track record of asking for ridiculous amounts of money from broadcasters in America as well. And then either settling for what can only be described as substantially less than what he asked for, or those other broadcasters in the end saying, actually, we're not paying you anything. So he's entitled to do that in the American system. The American system is very different to ours. But in this country, you know, the BBC have admitted they made a mistake. So there is a process that you can go through. It's not as if they're defending their actions. What they're going to be defending the impact it may have had on his election and whether or not 10 billion is a reasonable kind of adjustment establishment. So I think it feels a bit strange to us when we look at this from the eyes of Britain, but in America it's kind of like normal, and I think it was a bit of a shakedown, basically.
I would have said, look, I'm not a lawyer, Mr. Ahmed, but I would have said his case is somewhat disadvantaged by the fact this programme was broadcast in Britain, not in America, the week before the presidential election. Donald Trump won the presidential election very comfortably. So how did this BBC programme defame him or disadvantage him in that electoral contest?
Well, obviously it's very hard. I mean, I think the BBC's position, I understand why they can't talk about it, but obviously they're right. And I would imagine that's going to be their defence. If you think about Samir Shah, the chairman of the BBC, when he talked to the select committee, that's exactly what he said as well, which was, even though they admitted liability, etc., they still said they didn't think that it had a detrimental effect on his election campaign. So if it had no detrimental effect on the election campaign, because we know that because he won, then had he lost, if 10 billion is what he wants when he wins, what would it be if he hadn't have won? So I just think I can't understand what the case would be when somebody's admitted liability and that they've changed it, etc., and going forward. I don't understand it, having been involved with Ofcom and knowing how Ofcom works in this country, which is very different to America because it's a politicised system in America. We know that the regulatory system in America is politicised, and the current person running it is a Trump supporter appointed by the Trump administration. It's very different to it is in the UK. In the UK, there would be a case where you would be asking for, there would be apologies made, there would be all sorts of changes that would happen. 10 billion, even a couple of £100,000 in this country would be a lot of money.
But Mr. Ahmed, this isn't really about the money, is it? I mean, Trump's an extremely wealthy man. He certainly doesn't need a few extra million or even $1 billion. This is an attempt to soften the BBC's coverage of Trump to make sure that they give him more favourable reports in future.
I think it's that. Well, that's how it's worked in America, and it has worked for them. That's why the kind of like the bullying that you've seen of broadcasters in America, the defunding of public service broadcasting, all of those things in America have been done to do that. And it has worked. We've seen that. I don't think it would work here, although people, and I think the question will always be asked, is this likely to lead to a litigation? And that's something that you always do when you're making these kind of decisions anyway. And you're right, there will now be more cautious kind of opinions that would say, you know what, he got us last time, he's going to take us to court on this time again. So you're right, there'll be an element of that, but I don't think it will stop British broadcasters, because ultimately I think we think differently than our American counterparts.
I just very briefly, because we're on pressure of time, Mr. Ahmed, does the BBC have a war chest for legal actions like this? I mean, do they have a slush fund of $5 billion to pay off aggressive predators like Donald Trump? I suspect the answer is no.
I think the answer is no. I know the answer is no. You've got to remember, they're not actually allowed to borrow on the licence fee as well, and all things as well. So this will come out, whatever money goes out, it comes out of your ability to make new programmes,
That's the point. Very good. Thank you for that, Mr. Ahmed. That's Aqil Ahmed, former head of religion at the BBC. Interesting, because some of our people emailing in this morning said the BBC have got their own money. They haven't
got any of their own money. I mean, they make a little bit commercially, don't they? But still, it's all fed back into the same pot. Well, don't forget, friends of GB News can vote in today's poll for free. We're asking, is Donald Trump right to sue the BBC? And the results are in so far. Well, it's a fairly resounding decision. 97% of you say yes, 3% say no. I wonder if we change the question to, are you willing to send your money to Donald Trump?
Yes, because it is your money, the licensee. You heard from Aqil Ahmed, it all comes out of the licensee. Miriam makes the point, BBC Commercial does make money by selling TV series. Used to sell Doctor Who abroad until it became ridiculously woke. Don't suppose they've dog it now. But there are programmes they can sell abroad for lots of money.
Go woke, go broke. That's what Donald Trump's trying to do to the BBC.
Now, if you want to become a friend of GB News for free, then you can take part in all our polls. Here's how you do it.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, today marks the 250th anniversary of the legendary author Jane Austen's birth. GB News' Michael Portillo is very excited about it.
So are you.
It's true.
Hello. GB News joins in the celebration of the 250th anniversary of the birth of Jane Austen. The opening of Jane Austen's 1813 novel Pride and Prejudice is one of the most famous in the whole English literary canon. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
Well, we will be going live to Jane Austen's birthplace next to commemorate this special, momentous day. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading overseas for a holiday, well, you'll find plenty of fine weather in Greece and Cyprus. Italy too, but fairly showery with a keen northerly breeze for the Canary Islands and some heavy rain across eastern Spain. That's going to stick around for a couple of days. Meanwhile, ahead of another area of low pressure, Italy and Greece are largely fine, but there is another low on the way, arriving into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Today marks the 250th anniversary of the legendary
You're
author
so excited
Jane
about this,
Austen.
aren't you?
So you say. I do like Jane Austen, it's true.
Do you know she only wrote 6 books? It's incredible when you think how enduring she is.
And the only one I'm not particularly fond of is Mansfield Park, which is quite dull, but maybe I just don't understand it. Well, GB News reporter Isabel Feculak joins us now in Hampshire, the birthplace of our most celebrated author.
It's not most celebrated.
Good morning, Isabel.
Morning. People have been celebrating all over the world, but particularly here in Hampshire. And I'm in Winchester Cathedral today. This is where she is buried and she spent her final weeks. And behind me, you can see a statue of her that was unveiled just in time for this 250th birthday. And fans have been arriving all morning to take photos with it and admire it. I spoke to them alongside the Reverend Canon Dr. Roland Ream, interim dean of the cathedral, earlier.
The reaction's been really, really positive. We had 3 million people looking at it on Instagram, which is no mean feat. And as I look from my office window at the people coming up, they all are fascinated by it and come up and have photographs taken with it. So I think it's done a really good job.
And how far have you come?
Well, probably about 70 miles, Gloucestershire. And we came on Friday, and now we're going back today.
And you look amazing.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a bit about the outfit.
Well, this was made, 20 years ago, but I put the ribbon on, and I've actually got some very, very, very Regency shoes in my bag, but because it's such a wet day, I've got my boots on. If I was in Jane Austen's era, I would have had patterns on my shoes to keep the mud off. It's just a fabulous day. I just wish it was a bit of sunshine.
Could you just tell me again, where did you come from today just for this sculpture?
So I live in Switzerland, but I'm a development worker, so I live in many places. Last time I was just in Bolivia, where I was part of a big Jane Austen fan club. Yeah.
And you came all this way for this, why?
Yeah. Well, because she means a lot to me, and her books mean a lot to me, and that's something that sort of connects my life to all these places, and it's just glorious to see how, yeah, through all of the cultures, her books resonate and her words resonate.
Well, Jane Austen's life ended here in Winchester, but this statue now stands as a permanent reminder of her legacy in British culture.
Thank you, Isabel, and a good reminder of one of our most famous authors.
Yeah. Is she your favourite author?
No. She was good, but she's not my favourite.
Tolkien's my favourite author. I love The Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Fabulous. All sorts of good and evil, and so many messages in it.
Absolutely. Well,
so happy birthday, Jane Austen.
Absolutely, yes, and maybe her books will see a revival, although I take it you're not particularly a fan of that BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice.
I do think it's a great book.
It is a great book,
It's a great book.
You're not a fan.
That's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up now, Good Afternoon Britain with Cameron and Nana, and they're Jane Austen fans too, apparently.
It's lies, Andrew. I'm not actually. I think I fell asleep during Pride and Prejudice. But no, she's an amazing author. Lots of people liked her. But look, coming up, we're talking the BBC. Lawyers in this country are saying that Donald Trump has about as much chance of winning as he does of winning the lottery. But I know, we shall see.
We will indeed. And we will be bringing you live the sentencing of Paul Doyle, who hit 100 people with his vehicle in Liverpool, including a 6-month-old child. Luckily, no one died. That's next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Watch out for a bit of fog developing overnight, but before that, today is actually largely fine for most of us. That being said, we do have a front lying across eastern parts of England at the moment. This is bringing some wet weather. Eventually, it's going to clear away towards the east, and then there are also a fair few showers across parts of northwest Scotland, and some of these could be falling as a bit of a wintry mix, so a bit of sleet or snow possible over higher ground. Elsewhere, though, a lot of dry weather and some decent sunshine as well, particularly towards the northwest and across some central parts, with temperatures, if anything, a few degrees above average for the time of year. As we go into this evening, we're going to continue to see a fair few showers across parts of northern and western Scotland. Still, some of these falling as a bit of sleet or snow over higher ground. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry with some clear skies as we go into the overnight period. Across Northern Ireland, it's looking mostly dry to end the day, just 1 or 2 coastal showers. And then across the bulk of England and Wales, lots of dry weather, lots of clear skies, just a bit cloudier across eastern parts, and some of that rain still clinging on across parts of East Anglia and Kent. Where we get those clear skies through the start of the night, we are going to quite readily see a bit of mist and fog developing. That could cause some localised issues. In the east, that fog's going to develop and become quite dense in places. Further west, it will start to lift and clear away as a band of rain pushes its way in. Ahead of that rain, with some clear skies and that mist and fog, temperatures dropping a little bit lower than some recent nights. It's a bit of a chilly start for some of us. And then, as we go through tomorrow, well, wet weather sweeping its way in from the west. Some of the rain is going to turn quite heavy, particularly across parts of the southwest